Hi, I'm Jessica,
And I'm Lucas.
and welcome to another episode of Dose of Pharma. So, what's today's episode topic?
Today's episode topic, we'll be talking about comparing the differences between the pharm sci degree and also the pharmacy degree. And we'll also bring another guest who will be talking about giving us the insights about what pharmacy is and talking about her experience as well. So who's our guest today?
Yeah, we've got another exciting guest today, and that is Mahek Shah. She's a current third-year pharmacy student at Monash, and she also works at Chemist Warehouse as a student pharmacist and is leading the Victorian Pharmacy Student Association as 2021 president. So, yeah, a pretty cool guest again.
Yeah, I guess we'll just jump straight into it.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name's Mahek. I'm a third year pharmacy student and I'm currently working in community pharmacy, and I really would like to expose myself to hospital pharmacy as well. I really enjoy, the pharmacy aspect of like liaising with patients and everything, but ultimately like in future I'd really love to volunteer with, an NGO or something like that with my friends. That would be great. And as well as that, it would be really cool. So I love food a lot, and I felt like I should share that I have a food page. I really enjoy that. So maybe that could be something like a little side project. I love taking photos of food and just making fun recipes and things with my air fryer. That's a little bit about me. I do enjoy, I go for like jogs and things. That's so weird, but I love going outside and spending time outside because I think now it's really important. That's it.
Oh, it's pretty amazing. Like, you even have like a painting behind you.
It's not mine. My mom found it, and then she's like, "Oh, do you want it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." It makes me look artistic. As you can see, my wall is full of pharmacy things, which I never use, but I still make anyways. So.
Yeah, that definitely happens around this time of year, close to exams.
Exactly.
The wall just gets covered in all the diagrams.
The random stuff, yeah. It's
like, maybe if it's there, I'll actually look at it.
Maybe. Maybe I was thinking I'd wake up to it and look at everything. Nah, it's not happening. Yeah.
So to lead on with the theme of the episode, as you work at pharmacy for your placements, what have been your worst customer experience during that time?
On placement, actually, just quite recently, I walked into the new environment, and you often have to price check things. And so back at work, I know how to do that because I've been working there, but at this new placement, I didn't know how to do that. So I did ask how much would this one be? And I told the patient, it's $9.95, and he heard $19.95, or it was the other way around. And I was in my placement shirt, and it was my first day, and I was like, nothing can go wrong. And then he got really mad, and then he was to the preceptor, it's really important. I'm going to give some feedback about placement students. And I was in my Monash shirt, and I really wanted to cry that day. It's funny how I'm so numb to exam pain and everything and uni, but I will go on placement, and this small thing will happen and I'll start tearing up. It's so bad. So that was a really bad experience, and it wasn't even one of my worst ones, but it's the one that's kind of stuck with me. And then just quickly at work, you have those patients where there's miscommunication between the GP, yourself, and the patient, and the fax doesn't come through. So they can fax their prescriptions, and if that fax doesn't come through, we get the heat sometimes. And it's been quite a journey there. But I think e-prescriptions has brought on a new benefits, but it's also been quite challenging as well in some aspects.
Yeah, especially dealing with that with COVID and the prescriptions all being different than they used to be. I think now they send them directly to your people's phone as well.
Yeah.
So that makes things easier or harder?
100%. Yeah. And then so it's if they lose it, it's on you. No, I shouldn't say that. But it's always a struggle. You have to teach them how to find the link, because the elderly, for example, they're not very accustomed to it. But we can work around that. We give them a token. We keep their scripts with us. So it's it's a good balance of things. Like, it's good and bad, but I think it's going well so far. Touch wood.
That's good.
Yeah.
But especially on like your first day of placement, it must have made it so much harder to have that like somebody get upset at you.
Exactly.
Especially a customer as well.
Yeah, and it like really sets the tone for yourself. And I like, these things do happen, and it's like a learning experience. But especially when you don't get a chance to explain yourself on placement, and you want to, you know, put on a good front, but then that happens, and it's out of your, you know, hands, because, you know, he didn't hear the price right. I couldn't even be like, wait, no, this is what happened and this and that. And I was just standing there like, oh. But yeah, these things happen.
Must have been quite a shock, like when it happened.
Yeah, I was literally gonna cry, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, but yeah.
So we're at the same campus as you are, but we're studying pharmaceutical science compared to your pharmacy course.
Yeah.
So what was your perspective on pharmaceutical science before you started like pharmacy at Parkville? Like, did you ever consider doing it? Like, what did you think our course involved compared to like you deciding to go into pharmacy?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I was speaking to like, I think Christine about it as well. So initially, it's funny because when I say I'm studying pharmacy, people think I'm like making the medications, and I do, like, we do compound as pharmacists. We do basic compounding, and we can go into aseptic compounding. However, a pharmaceutical scientist, they're more involved in the formulation science. And so I think when I think pharmaceutical science, I think lab work, I think how the drug works around the body. And then compared to pharmacy, where it's like, we want to ensure that it's the best choice of drug for you. And you guys give us those options. So it's really cool. And I'm not sure if I answered the whole question, but I think I forgot a little bit of it.
Yeah. So why did like you choose pharmacy?
I think I chose pharmacy because of the patient aspect and the fact that I get to liaise with patients, and I'm kind of their first point of contact. And yeah, I really love speaking. Like, I could talk on and on and on. And I think that kind of builds rapport with the patient, so it can make a difference in their life. Like, they come to you for their medication, sometimes it's their first time, and you kind of make or break when you're counseling how that medication is going to work, if they're going to take it. You tell them what they should look out for, and I think it's quite important to be that figure in someone's life. In hospital, if you go into pharmacy as a hospital pharmacist, you get to liaise with a bunch of, you know, GPs, nurses, like a range of health professionals. I think that's so important. And it was a good compromise for me between medicine, because I'm that kind of person who would like sit in there, give them a diagnosis and then cry with them. So I couldn't really separate that emotional aspect from it. And I think pharmacy is quite flexible, and the degree at Monash is something like that appeals to me as well.
Yeah, it's a 5-year course, right?
Yep. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, it's a 5-year course. It's a master's, and then you get you do your intern year as well. So 5 years with the bachelor and master's.
Yeah, that's pretty different from ours.
Oh, yeah. What's yours like?
So our base course is only 3 years, and I'm personally going to go into an honours year, so that makes it 4. Yeah. And I think Lucas is pretty similar, so you can explain yours.
Mine's like, I do 2 years of pharm sci, but like my other 3 is chemical engineering.
Nice.
I'm doing the double degree. And yeah, so this year I'm basically in 3rd year, but I do like mix with like 3rd year and 2nd year units.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So you're on the Clayton campus sometimes, and then you have to come here. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like set apart by like years. So I don't have to like go back and forth in between.
Okay,
so, like,
okay.
1 year I stay in Parkville, 1 year I go to Clayton.
So we don't have to hang around quite as long as you do for the 5 years.
Yeah.
And then like you mentioned briefly that like when you tell people you're doing pharmacy, they don't quite understand what you mean, and that like they think that you're like making drugs. So it's like, do you find that people don't understand what you're doing in the course and get confused about what you're studying?
Oh, definitely. And personally, I didn't know what pharmacy was until someone mentioned it to me in my final year in high school. And so no one, I don't think they recognize the pharmacist role as, you know, to give in medications. Some people don't take medications their whole entire life, so they've never encountered a pharmacist. Yeah, I think when I tell people I'm a pharmacist, they're like, oh, you make drugs, which is true. We make some formulations, but you guys do the bulk of it, and you do the formulation science, which is like really cool. And I guess the difference is just no patient interaction as much, and like, you know, more pathophysiology in our degree. Like we learn more of the biology aspects. It's funny because I was talking to Christine and she said when she tells people she's studying pharmaceutical science, they think of us. Is that what you guys find, or?
Yeah, sometimes, because like pharmacy is more well known, I guess, in the public.
Yeah.
So like whenever you say like, oh, I study at Parkville, and then they're like, oh, are you studying pharmacy?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but even when saying pharmaceutical science, they're often like, oh, okay, so you're going to get a job in a pharmacy and be a pharmacist. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm doing. Like, that's not the job opportunities at the end of this.
Yeah, that's so interesting though, because it's like the opposite for us. Like it's really weird that happens. But I think we should definitely, like, we don't even see each other during our degree. I think that it would be really cool to have like at least one class with the pharm sci students, because I think there's like a very small overlap in our degree in terms of like dose forms and everything like that. Like, you know, like basic things like slow release and lipid formulations.
I think there was like that one unit where like we use pharmacy slides, because like it had a different unit name. And like my friend searched it out and it was like a pharmacy unit.
A pharmacy unit. Oh, okay. Well, they should make us study that together. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We'd all get to like meet each other a bit better rather than just seeing each other around campus.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm all for that. Like I would totally love that.
So moving on. So you've been like studying as a pharmacist to be a pharmacist. You've also become like the president of a student pharmacy body.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I currently am in the role for the Victorian Pharmacy Student Association, and it's like a really rewarding role, but it does have its challenges, you know, balancing uni life with that commitment. So my role mainly involves, so I kind of lead the whole committee, and initially we started off with 5 that continued on from last year, and then I conducted interviews with 2 of my executive members, and we have a whole team of around 25 students right now. We also wanted to include first years, so we got them a position on the committee, so then they kind of have something to go off and to be involved within the uni life. But yeah, so the organization, it's a non-governmental organization, so we get our sponsors from companies like, for example, Ego. We have a few companies that do education events with us as well, and it's such a rewarding process because it teaches you how to network. You can liaise with other people, and I think it really has built my leadership skills, dealing with a committee. You have to often tailor how you approach things for each member. And yeah, it's good to, I think it's like a great role, and I think it is quite a bit, but if you do have a good time management schedule and organization, which I do not, by the way, I think it's doable, and it's what you put into it. Like that's how much you'd get out of it. So I had a lot of things that I wanted to achieve. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen like the little bottles going around, like the prescription water bottles. I was like, I want to get prescription water bottles done. And so it literally says like the drug name, which is dihydrogen for water. And then it's like, take this ml. So that was one of the things that I was like, I really wanted to do. So I got that done. And then just different education sessions with sponsors just for our peers. So for example, we had Smith & Nephew, they're a wound care company. They came on and they taught us about wound dressing. And then a few of the Pharm Sci people came for the Ego one as well. So that was just talking about the Ego pharmaceutical products and the formulation aspect of it. And so, yeah, we kind of hold those things. We hold social events. But yeah, personally for me, it's been a great learning experience working with a range of other people, talking to our sponsors, meeting up with them. It's quite official. Like, I didn't realize how official it was. Like you have to draft up contracts and commit to sponsorships. And yeah, it's really cool, like a good experience. And it's kind of helped me go fat, advocate for my career as well. I've learned of different opportunities through this, and for example, that conference, it was really nice to go to that. Yeah, because I was a part of this.
Yeah, wow. That sounds like a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
Yeah, it must definitely help like how passionate about it you are. Like you make it work because like it's something you want to do.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think it's like great to be passionate about what you study for. And I think a lot of people, they get burnt out with the workload, which is, it's quite a bit, but I'm just like that persistent person. I will like push on and just like put my study aside and do other things because I have priorities, different priorities.
It's such a good quality to have, to be able to like, yeah.
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. I think I put my studies a bit behind, but that's okay.
On that note, like what kind of employability skills do you think like are essential for pharmacy students?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that you have to be able to, communicate well with the patient. And a big part of community pharmacy is being able to mediate conflict, because there are going to be, certain situations where even though, nothing was your fault, or perhaps it was just a misunderstanding, you'd have to mediate it so the patient feels supported. And yeah, you've got to just like maneuver the conversation in that way. So I think a big part of it, it's, liaising with patients, communication. Secondly, I think also being able to continuously learn and have that drive for learning. So, you're always having a look at the new research that's come out on this drug. This new side effect has popped up. Make sure to tell your patients about it. I think it's something quite important to always update yourself and be involved in the innovation of the career. For example, just quite recently, there's a new medication, so not a new medication, it's been there, it's on prescription, but it's now being removed off prescription. So it's being downscheduled. And if someone does come up to you in the pharmacy and you don't know that that's happening, that could arise as a potential problem. Patients could be like, oh, I've heard this through different sources, but you essentially want to be on top of what you know so you can safely supply the medication. So yeah, I think to recap that, it was communication with patients, so building rapport. And I also think that being up to date with your clinical knowledge and, everything about the medications. You don't have to know everything, but you have to have that, where to find the information and be resourceful in that kind of sense.
Yeah. And it's quite different to pharmacy actually.
Yeah.
Because like for us, we are more like just interacting with our peers and like lecturers.
Yeah.
And we don't have that communication with like patients or something like that.
Yeah.
And in terms of knowledge, it's mostly based on like, instead of like medication prescriptions, I think we're going more into like different aspects of like
pharmacodynamics, pharmacokinetics.
Yeah, PK, PD. Yeah. Yeah. So you would feel that your most important skill as a pharmacy student would be understanding formulation more so?
Yeah, I think we're more focused on like, well, there used to be like 3 types of pharmacy. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so like physiology and medicinal chemistry. And the last one was formulation science. But now like students can like choose units based on their interests.
Oh, so you can choose units and it's not completely prescribed. Degree.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
But it's still like a lot more specialized to do pharm psych compared to pharmacy, where you have to learn about like all the medications and then be that real like the bridge for the community and the patients to understand all these medications. Whereas we are more behind the scenes.
Yeah, you're the step before the drugs go out. Yeah, I think it's also interesting. Pharmacy is moving towards more specialization as well. Later on you can specialize as for example, like a clinical oncologist pharmacist, which would be like really cool. Yeah, but that comes much later. Like in pharmacy school, you learn everything as a whole. Yeah.
I don't know, like even though there's some types of connection, it's like very different roles in terms of pharmacy and pharmacy. But like they're still kind of interlinked in terms of the industry as well. Yeah,
I think it'd be so useful to have them linked. Like your input is so important to us when we're recommending so this person can't swallow and they have like a malabsorption issue. Like, what do you guys think? What dose form would be good? And you would know like the science behind it, which is really cool.
To have that different perspective is always good.
Yeah.
And then like discussing how different both the degrees are. Do you know much about like the options between going from like pharm sci to pharmacy, like graduate entry or anything like that? Like, can somebody go from studying pharm sci into pharmacy?
That's a good question. I had a little search before if someone wanted to, transfer. And I recall seeing that they mentioned you can finish your 4th year in pharmacy, but you can also apply. So you finish the bachelor and then you apply to in October in your 4th year. So you don't have to do the intern year. You would apply to go into PharmSci, and then I think you would join the course in the 3rd or 4th year. I can't recall exactly, but yeah, so it was something that you would have to do after your bachelor's, but it's like I've had a few people that have done a course transfer within my year level, and they did it quite early on. So I feel like it's plausible if you wanted to do it early on. Yeah.
Do you know like the other way around though, like from PharmSci into pharmacy?
Is it quite similar? I recall seeing that do you have to complete 3 years in the PharmSci degree and then jump over?
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Yeah.
That's pretty much finishing the degree.
No, we're really interesting to know. And I would most definitely want to ask like the peers who've jumped over. But I think mostly a lot of them realize that pharmacy is more communication based, and they enjoy the lab aspect of the formulation. We had a compounding unit, and I think a lot of people enjoyed that. So then they were like, oh, I really like PharmSci. So yeah, they moved on.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot less overlap than people expect, and being like so similar with like pharmacy and pharmaceutical science, but actually a lot more different.
Yeah,
than expected.
Exactly. And then when I tell people like pharmacy and they're like, oh, you make the drugs, I like literally don't want to explain the difference, but I'm like so ready to like go into everything. I'm like, this is what they do, this is what we do, and it works so well. But oh well.
Yeah. So you at the start you mentioned about your student placements, and like I've heard that like it's very prevalent for pharmacy students. Do you want to expand what it looks like throughout the course of your degree and like how it has like shaped your personal or like different career perspectives and that?
Yeah, so I think that the placements from year one, it's a great part of the degree. It's quite an important part as well, because you can determine whether you want to go into community sector or hospital quite early on, but it's totally fine if you don't know. So it's kind of exposing you to those different career pathways. So we start off with 1 day in the first year, and that's kind of the basic introduction to the hospital. You also have your 1 day community pharmacy placement, and that's something you can seek out yourself. So you can choose whichever one you want to go to, and that like immerses you in just the environment. And then second year is when it goes up to a week, pretty sure. And it's quite useful. Personally, for myself, the hospital was quite insightful because I currently work in part-time community. So I have that experience. So hospital was much more rewarding for me to kind of immerse myself in a new environment. And I did quite like the hospital placements. And then third year, we jumped up to 2 weeks. So some people do their 2-week community early on or the 2-week hospital, and then it kind of flips over whenever COVID will let us. And then in fourth year, it's just full of placements, and you have your placement research project. So that's something you do with a group, and it might be paired up with a hospital, and you might just conduct a project, but it's mainly placement based. And then intern year is your full working full time. So it's kind of your long placement, but paid, and you're doing your master's as well. Yeah.
Wow. A lot of placements.
Yes, a lot of placements. It's good in a way, but it's also, I think, before exams, it's quite stressful. And then we also have to get reports done from our preceptors. So they kind of rate us on skills that are critical for pharmacists. And yeah, they kind of write feedback for us, but we have to chase them up for it sometimes, which is not good. But yeah.
Sounds like it must be so tiring, because like how you mentioned before, like you get home at 5 p.m. and you're just done because you've been working all day, and then have to study for exams.
Yeah,
sounds like a lot.
Yeah, no, it can be a lot. And what about you guys? Is it do your placements, you said they happen later on after exams?
So we only have placement during our last year of bachelor's, and it's like an actual unit as well. And you can choose either to be like industry or research. But if you go into honors year, or like advanced honors students, you can have like a unit that takes over 2 unit credits. Basically it's 2 units, but like you can do research as well as industry, or like 8 weeks of research if you're really keen for that.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah, but for us it's very short in terms as compared to your course.
Oh
yeah, so that's like 4 weeks for the majority of students, or 8 weeks if you're doing honors, and that's over like so that's just in third year, and that's the entire placement for unless like you go and seek extra internships. And
and do you guys feel like you would want them early on?
I don't know if you know Laurence, like she manages like a lot of like the industry contacts and stuff. And during first year, like she also like hosted, well, first year for me, like she hosted like employability week sessions.
Oh, that's good.
And it's like basically like an intro into the industry as well. And like to build like our career profiles, like she taught us how to do like LinkedIn, our CV, like a lot of stuff like that. And then we also got to meet with like industry professionals. We had like a little mini interview, kind of like a speed
that's good
interview.
That's really good.
Yeah, and we also had like a little presentation at the end where we have to like come together, like we'll separate it into like different student groups, and then we have to like come up with like a interesting solution for the pharmacy student in terms of tertiary education, like how to make it more interesting, and like had to like pitch it at the end as well. It was quite scary, but like very
but it's good exposure.
Helpful. Yeah.
But I feel like we don't need the same level of placement as the pharmacy students because of that, like how you really need that practice, that human interaction. And like you're saying, like dealing with the conflict and all those skills you've got to develop like socially in like the workplace. You can't really develop those in a classroom the same way.
That's true. Yeah. And even though like in workshops we can talk to our peers, I don't think it's the same as a dynamic patient interaction because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, like when if it's just your friend yelling at you, you're not going to take it the same way.
It's not going to be the same. Very true. Yeah.
Sounds like communication is very key, like in terms of communicating with like patients and also across with like GP and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people don't realize that until they're in the degree. And then they dread OSCEs and everything. But I think it's a great way personally to show what you know and kind of show your patient skills. And it's a good way to like learn as well. Like you get your feedback off your OSCEs, which is, I keep saying OSCEs, but I assume you guys know like what it's like the full abbreviation.
You should probably explain it to like.
Okay. Yeah, I should probably explain that. It's the clinical exam. So they're objectively structured clinical exams, short-term OSCEs. What we do is we're the pharmacist in training and we have a patient and they can present to us with, first year it was a quite simple little ailment. So I've got a little bit of a rash and you kind of have to ascertain what's, the history, you have to do your history taking, and then you can recommend a product or you can refer to the doctor. And so that's a basic community scenario. So basically we have an examiner, we're sitting in a room, it's a real life interaction, and we kind of act out, show our empathy, ascertain the issue. In a hospital, we might get a script and we have to ensure that the patient's not allergic to it, if it's okay with the other medications, is there an interaction, can they swallow, things like that. Just so basically just pharmacy practice, but in an exam scenario. Which is quite useful. I think it's one of the interesting parts of the degree. Is there any questions that you guys had about it or anything?
Well, it sounds like an oral exam. It's like very stressful as well.
That's it. Yeah,
you gotta retain that knowledge and also like relay that information.
Yeah,
like and be clear about what you're talking about.
Yeah, we get 8 minutes in third year. For 4 stations. Oh wait, actually 10 minutes for 2. Anyways, around 8 minutes. So it's like good, quick. You have to get the problem quickly, and also tick off everything that they'd like. Yeah,
it sounds very useful for the real world, though.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think it's quite useful, and you get to practice in workshops if you want to take up the opportunity in front of your peers. So I
think that's going to bring us to a close. So hopefully people can listen to this and understand the difference between pharm sci and pharmacy now, so they don't get confused when we tell them our degree.
If they have any questions, just feel free to message me, like wherever. I'm happy to have a chat, as you know. But yeah, it was really lovely to meet you guys and really nice to learn about, you know, the pharm sci side of things. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know before chatting to you guys.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Especially because like we're so close on campus and it's only really our courses on campus, and yet there's still so little we know about each other.
About it, yeah. I find that so, like, we have the smallest campus at Monash, I think, yes. And we work together on the same campus, but we haven't actually interacted. So it would be really cool to do maybe that unit that overlaps just with you guys, just to see who you are and like learn more about you.
Yeah, so thank you for giving us your perspective and telling us about your degree.
Thank you for having me.
To conclude the episode, we wish to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nations on whose land we are gathered today. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. For those listening who may be based elsewhere, we pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land from wherever you may be listening from. We especially welcome any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.